Hello everyone, the Instant Camera Guy here, and welcome to what will hopefully be a quick little video today. This is something that I've wanted to cover for quite a while, because this is a very commonly asked question. I see this across so many various forums, whether it be like Reddit r/Polaroid or the SX70 Facebook group, and that is the little gap between the door and the top short panel here on the viewfinder. Because one of the things that is regularly asked is people have just picked up an SX70 for the first time, or they've purchased one of someone, and a lot of people are like, oh, I'm not sure if like this gap is meant to be here, like there's a little bit of a gap in the front door. Is this normal? Like it's kind of like springy and it wants to cause like a little gap in the panel. And I wanted to basically just cover that, so and explain a little bit about it. So first of all, if you have a small little gap like this, that's completely normal. Depending on, you know, how you leave the camera, whether you really try and fold it shut or whether you push on it a little bit, it can leave a bit of a gap on the side there. And that's completely normal because there's this spring-loaded flap on the front door that's constantly pushing upwards when the camera is in the collapsed position. So to some extent, there's always going to be a little bit of springiness at the front of the camera, but a gap like this that looks pretty uniform is pretty normal. But I've seen a lot of forums, people complain even about this gap. That's just how it's meant to be. Like, it should be fairly even, but you got to remember these things are 50 years old, and sometimes, especially later models, weren't produced with the best tolerances. This is a nice early generation Model 1. So the gaps are pretty consistent, but yeah, that's fairly normal. But as I said, some people I see complain about the springiness there. What's less normal is like really large gaps like this, right? Where, and this is a camera that I'm about to fully refurbish. I wanted to show you what the issue is with this model. Now, a very large gap like so, this is not a camera where the mirror is stuck in any kind of a position, because if a Polaroid camera is difficult to close, it can be that the mirror has gotten stuck in the upright position. This is not that problem. This is a gap between the front panel and the door. And it is caused by the lens board becoming bent over time. Now, I don't know if you guys can see that, but if I drop the door, see how the little arm that connects the shutter housing to the hinge pin here, see how that little arm is really, really bent? It should be more of a right angle. I'll try and show you on this one. Can you see the difference? I know this is going to be very hard to sort of point out, but can you see the difference there? And this issue is a lot more common on later model cameras, sometimes alphas, but especially Sonars and the SLR680, and that is because the SLR680, because of the additional flash and the autofocus assembly, this front shutter housing is a lot heavier than on a standard SX70. And in addition, as I've discussed in previous videos, the SLR680 was produced at the end of Polaroid's run of folding SLR cameras, and these were made with inferior quality materials. The plastic is generally less good, the synthetic leather is notorious for crumbling, and certainly the metal on the lens board I see is very commonly like snapped on the leg there, or it gets bent out of shape. To fix this, we basically have to push the lens housing forwards and just hope that the metal is not super stressed. But yeah, we basically want to push that so that the actual lens board is straight, and then there's that little curved kick for the leg. Now we can see that we've got too much of a gap on this side. So now I actually have to, there's quite a bit of finagling that, finagling? How do you say that word? I know how to do this from experience, but there's a bit of an art to doing this. But doing that, ta-da! See how it closes properly? If you are going to attempt this at home, please be careful. As I said, if that lens board is made of fairly thin metal, if you bend it too many times and you snap it, it is a huge pain in the butt to replace that lens board. Basically the entire camera's got to come apart right to the bellows, because the bellows on these later model cameras are not screwed in place, they are riveted in place, the lens board is riveted in place. You're setting yourself up for a whole mountain of work if you snap that part. But yeah, that is basically why some models develop that gap in the door. It is generally an indicator that over time, because of the big heavy housing, it's gotten bent out of shape, or it is a sign that your camera has taken a knock or a fall, or it's suffered some kind of damage or mishandling. And if that is the case, and if your camera is unrefurbished, a full overhaul will be necessary to get the best results out of the camera. Obviously, that is not the only thing I'm going to fix on this particular client's SLR 680. I am now going to completely disassemble this thing and fix it up so that it is good as new inside. If I was just to have rebent that hinge and sent it back to the client, that would be super negligent of me, because, as I've said in other videos, all folding SLR cameras made by Polaroid really do need to be fully overhauled from top to bottom, inside and out, in order to be as reliable as possible and perform at their very best. So that's really all I wanted to cover today. I hope you took something helpful out of this video, and I'm gonna now rip this thing apart, fully overhaul it. I'll see you in the next video. And as always, if you like what I do, if you thought this tip was helpful, feel free to either send me a camera to refurbish, send me a donation using the links below, or simply a like, subscribe, or comment goes a long way to keeping my lights on. I hope you all have a wonderful day, and I'll see you in the next video.